When I was a kid, my parents divorced and my father moved back to Dayton, Ohio. And he got a home. And for at least a year, me and my brother and sister, we stayed with our mom out in California. And eventually, it was time to go back to live with dad. And I prompted this because I was a 12-year-old kid getting ready to go into puberty. And I was just kind of like, I think I need to be with my dad so I can learn how to be a man. I convinced my little brother to come with me. So we moved back to Ohio and we moved into this house. And it was in a neighborhood in West Dayton, just off of 3rd Street. And it was a old house. Every floorboard you stepped on, it creaked and made sounds. There was no way you were sneaking up the stairs. Every single step made the most horrific sound. Our house was clean for the most part, and it wasn't in a bad neighborhood. It was just an old neighborhood that no one loved. The best thing about my neighborhood is there were a lot of older people that lived on my street in the area, so it was pretty quiet, pretty chill. It was kind of place that you could go trick-or-treating. And after about a year and a half of living in this home, besides the mice that we had in our house, an area like that's old, you tend to have pest issues. And one of the primary pest issues that tend to be prevalent in areas like this are roaches. And so I learned to live with mice and roaches, which was new for me coming from California. Not that they don't have mice and roaches in California, but for me, I never lived anywhere that had mice and roaches. Fast forward a couple years, I'm now going into the 8th grade and we leave that house and my dad gets a house about 15 minutes away. And it was actually a nicer house. It was a newer house. It was a single level. And when you walk down the hall, the floorboards didn't creak. It was nice wood floors. I was really looking forward to living there. It was in a pretty nice neighborhood. But it wasn't long after moving there that it became evident where our home was situated. That neighborhood sat right next to the projects. The name of the projects was DeSoto Bass. Anybody who lived in Dayton knows the low-income housing DeSoto Bass projects was a long, long, long time ago. A beautiful place and had families were raised there and generations came from there, right? But now in 1987, DeSoto Bass wasn't a nice place anymore. I lived with my dad until I was in his house until I was 25 years old. So it was like 10 years of living in this house. And eventually realized, wow, this neighborhood is jacked up. We had a combination of drug dealers up the street, and we lived in a cul-de-sac. That's about the worst thing in the world, to have a drug dealer at the top of your cul-de-sac slanging, because you just get traffic, cars, people, riffraff, gunfire, fights. One night we woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. The house up the street was on fire. Nobody lived in it. So somebody set that fire, right? One day, I'm talking to my girlfriend on the phone, who is now my wife, by the way. I'm talking to her on the phone, just having boyfriend-girlfriend conversation. And I heard some yelling and screaming outside. So I stood up. This was back in the days when you had a phone with a cord, so I dragged the cord over to the window. I'm looking out the window, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, hey, babe, I don't know, but I see a car across the way down, like in the other cul-de-sac adjacent to us, and they're backing out slow. I think it might be like a drive-by or something about to happen. The car is backing out of the cul-de-sac and turning onto the street, and now it's stopped. I think they're loading up and about to start capping. And sure enough, the car started driving real slow. It was just like in a movie. Car started driving slow. The hands came out. And they just started blasting down into the cul-de-sac. And I was just like, Oh my gosh, I hope there's no little kids outside or anything. So one thing I learned as a kid from my dad, because there were frequent times when people would just start shooting outside and he would grab us, run us into his bedroom, and we'd all get down on the floor, like not under the bed, but on the other side of the bed for cover. My dad is a Marine and a Vietnam veteran, and he didn't play. If somebody started shooting outside, it was like a tornado drill. He would always grab us up and we would take cover. So I hit the deck, right, when they started shooting because I didn't know what kind of return fire was going to come from that cul-de-sac because my house was directly in line, effectively, across the way from where this cul-de-sac was. Fortunately, nobody started shooting back. That was the first drive-by I saw living over there. I had to walk through DeSoto Bass to get to the bus stop. So I rode what's called the RTA in Dayton, Regional Transit Authority. And I caught the bus to get to school. I had a bus pass, which was great because in Montgomery County, Dayton, Ohio, they had a really good bus system and I could pretty much go anywhere I wanted to go. The school provided me a bus pass and it was just as good as having a car. But I had to walk through the Bass to get to the bus stop until I found an alternate route, and that was important. There were times it just felt like I was being watched. And not by good people, by bad people. Like somebody was watching me, sizing me up, trying to figure out how they were going to get me. I'm biracial. My mom's white and my dad's black. I'm a light dude. Back then, I was a chubby kid. I don't want to say fat. People don't like when you say fat, but hey, I was a fat dude. Walking through the hood with freckles. People just look at me like, oh, look at this. Look at this white boy walking through the hood. Hey, white boy, what are you doing on my street? What are you doing walking through here, white boy? And I always look at him and was like, man, I ain't white. You think a white dude would be living over here? You look white to me. And then, right after DeSoto Bass was an area called Gangster Courts, which was like another little project area. And it was just like asphalt, parking lot, and then a building with a bunch of drug dealers living in it. And honestly, it was just nothing but drug dealing going on over there. I'm at this point, we'll just say I'm in high school, right? And I was kind of dumb, like most high school kids. And I was trying to be cool. And me and my cousin decided we aren't going to wear what everybody else wears in the form of a backpack. Instead, we went down and got ourselves briefcases. So I had a black leather briefcase. I don't know where I got it, some department store. I had a black leather briefcase because carrying a briefcase to school back in 1989 was the thing to do. And I had this leather briefcase and I would get off the bus, walk up the street past Gangster Courts. And I never forget one day, the homies were all sitting out there and they were like, man, hold up. We saw you yesterday. Man, what you doing over here with that briefcase? And I was like, nothing, man. I'm just going home from school. What you got in that briefcase, bro? Let me see. And I was like, okay. I wonder what they think I got in this briefcase. So I said, what do you think I got in the briefcase? They're like, man, you got cocaine in that briefcase, don't you? Because they're looking at me, seeing this light dude walking through here with a briefcase. And I started laughing. And I was like, well, you're going to be disappointed when you see what's in my briefcase. So I set it down on the ground. And I was kind of dramatic with it. You know, spun it around a little bit, started screwing around with the combination. And they were all like, all right, here you go. I popped it open. I had my American history book and my algebra book in there. Like, yeah. Oh, man, you got books in there, dude. Oh, you good, bro. You good, man. Hey, man, don't let nobody mess with you. If anybody talk about they mess with you, you let us know. We gonna let nobody mess with you, man. You do your thing. And I was like, all right, bro. All right, man. I was like, about to pee on myself. I closed up my briefcase, moseyed on home. It's another little tale of the ghetto from the ghetto to the ghetto. That was, I'll never forget that. Another story I'll never forget, riding the bus home from football practice. I think I was a freshman, and I'm riding the bus, and Dayton has electric buses, which is kind of cool. These buses were old and crickety. They were made out of wood and aluminum, and they had these electrode poles that were spring-loaded and would reach up and connect to the electrical power, which were on power lines. And I'm riding home one night after football practice. I went to a school that was a really cool school. It was a vocational school called Patterson. It's John H. Patterson High School. And John H. Patterson High School is great because your junior and senior year, you had an opportunity to work and go to school at the same time. So they had two sections, Section A, Section B. Section A, when Section A was working, Section B would be in school and vice versa. You'd work 2 weeks and go to school 2 weeks, which was fantastic. It was like being in college, and they even offered college courses. So I took robotics classes my junior and senior year of school there. But anyways, my freshman year, I'm riding home from football practice at night because of the fact that I went to the school where people worked. We had to have our football practices late because juniors and seniors had to get off work so they can go to football practice. I'm riding home, and there's only like 3 people on this bus. It's maybe 10 o'clock at night. And glad to be on the bus because the bus had air conditioning, you know. It was summertime. And this dude across from me, just fidgety. He had this green Adidas, this old school green Adidas gym bag at his feet. And like Jerry curls, you know, old school Jerry curl. And was sitting there just kind of doing this, you know, looking around and stuff. And I was like, something wrong with this dude, you know? So I was just trying to mind my business. And he turns around. He was like, hey, man, you know what I got in this bag? And I was like, oh, man, why is this dude talking to me? So I was like, hold up. So I was like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? He's like, I'm good, man. I'm good. You know what I got in this bag, though? You know what I got in this bag? And I was like, nope, don't know what you got in the bag. I know what I got in my bag. And he goes, well, for real, what you got? I was like, I got books. Because I was trying to establish the fact that I was just some kid coming home from school. And he goes, oh, that's cool. So he leans over, unzips the bag, opens it up. And it was like Miami Vice. In his bag, he had like 3 kilos of cocaine and a Uzi. Straight up, an Uzi. And he looks up at me, he opens the bag and he looks up and he goes, I could kill everybody on this bus. And I was like, oh. So, again, let me be cool. So I just looked at him, I was like, for real? He goes, yeah. I was like, you wouldn't kill me though, would you? I mean, seriously, that's exactly what came out of my 14-year-old, 15-year-old mouth. You wouldn't kill me though, would you? And he goes, nah, bro, you good. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I was like, all right, cool. And he goes, hey, by the way, how many more stops before we get to the Soda Bass? And he zips up his bag. And I was like, oh man, it's just like 5 more minutes. And he goes, okay, good. Can you tell me where I need to get off? I was like, yeah, I'll let you know. I'll ring the bell. And when you see me ring the bell, that's your stop, the next stop. He goes, oh, cool, bro. Thank you, man. He said, where's your stop? I was like, oh, my stop was the same stop, right? So I ain't getting off of this dude. So I rang that bell. That dude got up, got off the bus, waved to me. He waved to me, right? Which was cool. And he went he went on about his business. I don't know what happened, but that was just one of them tales from the hood, from the ghetto to the gitmo that that I'll never, never forget. I can honestly say I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared because I learned something from my mom. My mom knew how to talk to people. She could talk to anybody. Anytime I got in these situations with thugs and just pe- evil people doing evil stuff, let's just call it that, I would try to outsmart them or talk my way out of it, befriend them or something, or say something or do something to help them in some way to divert whatever plans they had to do something different. I don't know. That's the tactic I had, survival tactic, right? It reminds me of another time on the bus, on one of them old electric green and white buses. It smelled like old electric motors. You know that smell of old electric motors?
You can smell it.
How do they make that smell? What is it? I think it's if you know how an electric motor works, sometimes like DC motors, they have brushes that ride against a commutator. And maybe that's the smell. It's just the smell of that friction and the heat generated by the motor. I don't know. I don't know how electric buses work. But anyways, riding on this bus, I'm sitting in the back of the bus because you can see everything back there. You don't have nobody behind you. So I felt like it was safe. And I like to sit in the back, on the left, up against the window. And this dude gets on the bus, walking, looking all hard. For those of you who don't know what looking hard means, looking like a thug, looking tough. He was looking hard. And he sits down and scoots up on the back seat on the opposite window. And this dude he just looked like up to no good, I'm sitting there and I've got on my dad's coat. It was cold and I didn't have a coat yet. So I was using my dad's coat. And it was a really nice coat. And this dude turned around and looked at me and said, "Hey, give me your coat." And I was like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "You heard what I said. Give me your coat." I was like, "Man, I ain't gonna give you my coat. This ain't even my coat. This is my dad's coat, so I can't give it to you." He's like, "You're gonna give it to me or I'm gonna stab you." And I was just like, wait a minute. I'm just trying to go home from school and now someone wants to stab me for my coat. Should I try to outsmart this dude or should I just give him my coat? If a crazy person with a knife says, "Give me your coat," you give him your coat. So I started crying because I was freaking scared. I took my coat off, handed it to him, and this dude put my dad's coat on, zipped it up, turned around and started looking out the window with this smug look on his face. Now, I'm terrified for two reasons. Number one, my coat just got took with the threat of my life, right? My life was threatened and my coat was stolen. So I got up, walked to the front of the bus. Now, let me tell you, God is good. We have a great God. God is really good. When I got to the front of the bus, there was a little old man, little white man with glasses. He kind of looked like Lou Holtz. If you know who Lou Holtz was, he was coach of Notre Dame football team. And this little old white man, he looked like Lou Holtz. And he was a bus driver. He was driving the bus. My grandfather was a little old white man who wore glasses. So this dude, he looked like my grandfather. And so I had the thought of just saying something. So I stood up, I went over to him, I said, "Excuse me, sir, Mr. Bus Driver." He looks up at me and he sees I was clearly distraught. He goes, "What's the matter, son?" I said, "Sir, that man back there just stole my coat and threatened to stab me with a knife." When this man heard what I said, he slammed on the brakes on this bus. I mean, everyone was like, it was one of those kind of moments. I mean, he stopped the bus instantly, stood up. He wasn't a big dude at all. He was just a little white man. Stood up, pulled his little pants up, said, "Come with me." Walked to the back of the bus, walked up to this dude, put his finger in his face and said, "You give this boy his coat back right now." That dude unzipped the coat, took it off, and handed it back to me. And then he said, "Get off my bus. And if I ever see you again, I'm calling the police. And you better move really fast or I'm going to call the police anyways." And that dude took off. And I said, "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for getting my coat back." Because let me tell you the other reason why I was terrified that my coat got stolen. My dad was a Marine. And if I had to go home and tell my dad that my coat got stolen, it was his coat, not mine. I liked it. I wore it every day, but it was really his coat. And you know what? He liked it too. And I know you might be thinking, really? Your dad would get mad because your coat got stolen? Yeah, my dad would have got mad. He would have been pissed. Because when I got home and I told him what happened, he started going off on me. "You can't let people do that to you, blah, blah, blah." Sometimes he wouldn't think about the moment, of what's happening right now and be compassionate and empathetic. I think Vietnam just messed that all up. Just his compassion and empathy was just vacant, I love my dad. But there was just moments like that where you're like, oh, all I needed was a hug, man. I just needed a hug. I just need somebody to tell me it's going to be okay. My dad was pissed. And he said, "Get in the truck. We're going to go find this dude that stole your coat." I was like, oh my gosh. I don't even hardly remember what this guy looked like, right? My dad was serious. I go out and get in our vehicle, in our truck. My dad comes out the house with his rifle. I told you my dad's a Marine. He had the rifle because if he was going to shoot you, you were going to go down. Because first thing, Marines learn to do, one of the first things that Marines do, that they're all really good at, is shooting. So we get in the truck, my dad's rifle stuck in there, and we're driving around DeSoto Bass looking for this dude. We drive downtown. We drive all around for 2 hours looking for this guy. And I was praying that we don't find him because I didn't want to be an accomplice to a shooting for a coat. I had my life in front of me. I wanted to survive another day. So anyways, we didn't find him. We get back home, and then when we get home, my dad's like, "I'm sorry I yelled at your son. I'm sorry that happened to you, man. Let's go get you a coat." I don't know. I finally got a coat out of the situation. But for a longest time, when you go through something like that, you got PTSD. Sitting on the bus, like, is that the guy? Oh, that dude looks like him. That looks like the dude that stole my coat. And you're constantly worrying about somebody jacking you for your coat again, threatening to rob you. So, I stopped sitting in the back of the bus. So I started sitting next to that middle door, just from a self-preservation standpoint. If I got to bounce, man, I'm bouncing out this door before something jumps off. Fast forward to, I would say, probably 10 years. I'm in college. One day I got on the bus, and there was that little white man driving the bus. I sat down, and I kept looking. I was like, that's him. So I went up there. I said, "Hello, sir. Do you remember me?" And he looks up at me, And he goes, yeah, you're the kid who had his coat stolen. I was like, yes, I am. He goes, how you been? I was like, I'm doing great. I'm in college now and everything. He was like, well, son, that's great. I'm proud of you. Good job. Did you ever find that guy? Did that guy ever mess with you again? I was like, no, sir, but thank you again for getting my coat back. He goes, hey, just doing my job, man. You have a great day. And that was such a blessing to see that guy again. Today I can honestly say, thank God that guy was driving the bus that day, and he had the courage to just go back there and make that guy give me back my coat, because I was afraid of what was going to happen to me when I got home if I didn't show up with my coat. So I talked about the fact that I went from the ghetto to the ghetto. I talked about the fact that I went to community college. I got an associate's degree in science, and I transferred to the University of Dayton. At the University of Dayton, I studied electrical engineering. I didn't have money to go to a private university. But fortunately, because of the job experience I gained when I went to Patterson in high school, I made a lot of good connections, and I was a good student and a very good worker while I was going to high school. And like I said, I had taken classes at Sinclair when I was in high school. And then at Sinclair, I had made some connections to the co-op and internship and job placement department. I just see it as a God thing. Again, I didn't know how to network and things like that, but God just brought people into my life, and I just, for whatever reason, made a positive impression on them. So when I started at Sinclair, I had a part-time job working for General Motors at Delco in Kettering. I started at Delco as a lab aide. It was my title. I made, maybe $8 an hour. That was a lot in 1991. I started there in 1991 as a lab aide. And I'm going to fast forward here. So talk about going from the ghetto to the ghetto. I worked hard because I had to go to school and work at the same time. I was a full-time student and eventually became a full-time worker because I needed more hours to pay for school. Fortunately, they let me increase my hours because I was adding value. Within a month, I had mastered the duties that a lab aide had, and I began to explore the engineering departments and learn more about the products, testing, and design. When I started, people still wore ties. Everybody had a phone. There was a mail room, and people smoked at their desks. So, 1991, no computers other than these big giant CAD machines. Big giant CAD machines looked like something you'd see in a space movie or something, big TV monitor type screens with all the different symbols on this big board that the draftsman would use to create drawings for the products we were designing. That fascinated me. I wanted to learn it, and I did. I learned how to do it. Before long, I was working full-time, going to school full-time, doing 3D CAD design, which was a whole new thing in the 90s. I remember when we got email, we all got in a room one day. The IT guy gets us all together. He said, hey, we're going to be rolling out this new program. It's called Lotus Notes. This was like, I think, a precursor to Microsoft Office, Outlook or whatever, right? Lotus Notes. And learning how to write an email, like an electronic mail. Because before this, you had people in the office who had a typewriter at their desk, and they would put paper in it, type memos, and they'd sign it and take it to the mailroom and fill out a form with all the people that the message needed to go to. The mailroom would make multiple copies of these, print them off, take them to all the mail locations, and stick them in all the boxes. You've probably seen that in movies. It definitely was a part of life back then. We got email. I mastered the email. I figured out how to do email, was able to teach other people how to do email. Long story short, I did well, performed well, eventually got hired as a full-time designer which came with benefits, health benefits, tuition reimbursement, which really helped. It really goes to show if you apply yourself and stretch yourself beyond what a particular role is in an organization and add value, chances are you're going to grow, develop, and have opportunities come your way that no one even thought of. Eventually, I graduated with my engineering degree, and they offered me an engineering job. I went from designer to design engineer. In the 7 years that I worked there, I started as a lab aide, and when I finished, I was a design engineer. And so in 1997, I moved out of my dad's house in the hood and moved into a brand new apartment out near the Dayton Mall in Miamisburg, where there were no sirens, there were no shootings. People had knives, but they were there because, they were the type of guys that carry knives around in their pockets, not the type of guys that want to steal your coat. The most threatening thing were my neighbors, because we had a dog, and that dog just barked all the time, and my neighbors always wanted to kill me because they hated my dog. And I got into a couple altercations with my neighbors because they were like, your dog keeps barking, you need to shut that dog up, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, man, this is an apartment, and people have dogs. And they're like, yeah, but your dog barks too much. And I'm like, yeah, you know how that kind of thing goes. But in any case, I went from the ghetto to the Gitmo, right? Because of God's grace, His mercy, and the fact that I had good work ethic and applied myself, So to anyone listening, whatever your situation happens to be, you don't have to stay there. You can make a decision to apply yourself and learn new things. Grow your mind, grow your brain, gain knowledge, gain wisdom, apply yourself, and people will notice. It doesn't matter who you are. Because let me tell you something. I was this curly-haired dude. I was really obese, morbidly obese. I mean, back then I weighed 285 pounds. I'm 5'6". I was a big dude from the hood, but I knew how to carry myself. I speak to people with honor and respect. I called the engineers who were older than me, sir, for the longest time until they told me, hey, you don't need to call me sir anymore, right? And so I established myself as a respectable young man who applied himself and did good work. But that principle isn't unique to me. This principle can be applied anywhere for anyone at any time of your life. So if you take anything away from this, take away this. With God, all things are possible. If you apply yourself and have faith and work hard, you'll find success. Thank you for tuning in. You've been sitting down with Q. If you're still with me, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, peace out.